Hey guys, so I'm back. Sorry that took so long. We had a great video, great discussion with Noah this past month. So thank you all for taking your time and watching those videos. We hope you enjoyed. Noah is a great friend. He's a very talented person, and we hope that some of those videos will also get him some exposure as well. So thanks, Noah. Thanks to your family, and of course a big old thanks to my wife for sitting there and doing work while we talked. So let's go ahead and get into it. One thing I have noticed over the past couple of months of interviewing and going after some more work is that I'm running into the same sort of problems when I'm interviewing, and that's not that I'm not prepared, because I've definitely taken the time to be prepared. It's not that I haven't done my homework. It's not that I'm not personable. It's that I'm having problems every once in a while with bad interviewers. And something tells me if I'm having problems that you guys are too. So let's talk about that a little bit. So what do you do if you've got a really great warm up and you're really ready to go, and you've got a great interview happening, and you run into a terrible person interviewing you? Not that they're personally terrible, you don't know them. It's just that they don't really have the skills to be as good of an interviewer as you need them to be. Because to be a great interview, you really need somebody to be as impactful interviewing you. So what do I mean by that? That's a really big statement. So I'm going to give you two examples, and the people who are in these examples are pretty high up, so they should know exactly what's going on. They should be good at interviewing. They've done this before, is really my point. So the first one was within the first 10 to 15 minutes of the interview, this person kept picking up their phone and text messaging someone back. Now, there are good reasons why you might be text messaging somebody back, but in the middle of my interview, you better let me know what's going on and maybe even apologize for it, because let's be honest, that's rude. It's rude behavior to pick up your cell phone, text somebody in the middle of somebody else's answer, and not address the situation. And it was never addressed. It was very, very awkward. I stopped right in the middle of my answer to just watch them finish their text message so that I could finish my answer and hopefully they'd hear me out. Now, after this person had noticed I'd stopped and they got done with their text message, they did start listening more. All right, my second actually comes from somebody who was even higher up. And unfortunately, this was a face-to-face interview that didn't happen, so we did it over the phone. And this face-to-face interview that should have happened may have been better. But because it was over the phone, I had no way to read this person's expressions and body language. When you're in final interviews, it's so important to make the best impression you can. And part of that is being able to read people's body language and adjust your story as you need. Because an interview, let's face it, it's just a really good story. It's how you present yourself. And I present myself better with other people around. Most people do. As I'm on the phone and talking to this person, I'm trying to be as personable as I can. I'm trying to read what they're not saying as much as what they are saying. Unfortunately, if you have somebody on the other side of that table or the other side of that phone who's not being as personable as you are, it really hurts your chances of being a good candidate. Not that you are a bad candidate or a good candidate, it just makes you better. And let's face it, folks, if I'm putting myself out there and trying to be the best I can be, I expect that in return. So what's the lesson? The lesson, of course, is to make sure that we're not, as candidates, carrying the conversation by ourselves. I can be as charming and as personable and as eloquent and knowledgeable as possible. But if you're not going to put out your personality and your knowledge and give me something in return, I might not be able to hold the conversation for the two of us. I can't always pick up your end and my end to make sure this conversation moves forward. The other thing is we've got some HR people out there, and I need your help on this. As an HR person, there's a lot of escalation you can do to get great information about making people develop or asking to develop. Hopefully that's more the case. But there are times where we do have to tell people, you're really not that great. Because what happens if you're a good candidate? You move on. If you're a bad candidate, you don't move on. What happens if you're a bad interviewer? You move on. You move on and try to find the next person that has the talent you need. And you may be unnecessarily driving away great candidates. And if you're driving away great candidates, they get hired by somebody else, they're going to have a word of mouth that's absolutely atrocious for you and your organization. So my HR folks, let's talk for a second. If you haven't created interview guides for hiring managers and other folks that'll be on the interviews, please go ahead and create those guides. Interview guides are tedious. Interview guides can be long, and sometimes they don't always apply to the jobs people are interviewing for. However, there are some great things that you can put into those interview guides so that you get the best interview possible. What you're trying to create in every interview, of course, is an environment where that person can shine. Another thing that can be done, and it's a little bit more invasive, are skills checks. Now, I understand that many places don't have high turnover, but mostly in the United States, you are going to see a level of turnover where interviews need to be done on a fairly regular basis at the lower levels. So your first line managers are going to be more invested in the interview process and experienced in the interview process than somebody who goes up the hierarchy. And as we go up the hierarchy, interviewing is not necessarily something that's done on a monthly basis or even a bi-monthly basis. So we have to check people every once in a while to make sure that they are doing the right things in the interviews. That's where that interview guide comes in handy too. So if we do those two things together, we're going to be in a better point for the organization to attract talent instead of repel it. The last thing that I'm going to suggest to every HR person out there, to every HR department and director out there, please talk to the people that were in the second and third, I'm assuming third is final round, candidate pools that did not actually get hired. If you talk to the people that were in those candidate pools, you're going to get a lot of information about how those interviews went from their perspective. You have the information, hopefully, from the people that were in the room, the hiring managers and other people in the hiring process. Now, go ahead and get the information from the folks that were in the room, but just didn't get chosen. I think you're going to see some great areas for improvement, some low-hanging fruit, and possibly you're going to point out somebody that really needs a lot of skills retraining. And remember, when I say skills retraining, it doesn't matter if you're experienced doing this for 20 years. If you're not doing it on a monthly basis, you are losing some of that experience. Development is not personal. It's business. I go through and I read my old notes about areas that I need to remember fairly frequently. I get retrained on change management on a yearly basis, and that's my job. So if I'm going through my own set of retraining, you can go through retraining for your own. Again, we can't keep having these people make these huge impacts on our organization by being bad interviewers. A bad interviewer will stick with you for a lot longer than a bad candidate. All right, folks. Again, it's great to be back. I do have some videos coming out about the Highland Games, which is a different part of my life. It's where I get to go have fun, hang out with friends, throw heavy weights, and occasionally tip back some scotch. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about that and some other videos. Like and subscribe if you like what you heard. If you want to hear a little bit more, please let me know down in the comments. Or if you want to hear about something else, please let me know in the comments. Again, my name is Dr. Ryan Simmons. It's great to see you all again. and I'll check you out a little later. Bye.